Welcome back to the Vital Strategies Podcast. I'm your host, Patrick Lonergan, and in today's episode, we're talking with Claire Darr. Claire is a transformation life coach to high-income earners. Claire is a former corporate lawyer turned life and business coach. She's dedicated to helping others discover their purpose in life and experience how it feels to live their lives to the fullest. Through practical, real-life solutions, Claire teaches others how to create massive transformation and impact. Together, we discussed how to get out of the state of overwhelm and how mental and physical health are tied together. Stay to the end where I challenge the idea of balance with Claire and how to develop a career that ties in with your passions. Let's dive into the conversation with Claire Darr. Claire, I am excited that you are here today. You are the founder of Claire Darr Transformational Living, and I'm excited to get into what transformational living really looks like, because I think there's maybe some misperceptions out there in the world as to what society tells us we should be doing, and then what actually brings us to a fulfilled life. So I think I'd really like to start with your background and just give us a little bit of your history, and then talk about maybe the evolution from where you started to where you're at now. So can you fill in the some of your backstory for us?
I'm happy to, and I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me, Patrick. Thank you. My journey started out very simply. I'm from England, by the way, if you maybe can pick up a bit of an accent. I grew up in England and moved to the US 27 years ago. So I always, from an early age, wanted to be an attorney. I saw a TV show when I was a little kid, and I wanted to be an attorney, and I was laser focused on becoming an attorney. So much so that I actually have 2 law degrees, one on both sides of the Atlantic, because I really, really wanted to be an attorney. And it's the running joke with everyone who knows me now, what are you doing now? And I'm like, not using the law degree. Well, but I really, from an early age, wanted to do something enriching, exciting, that I learned, that I added value. And I thought being an attorney was the answer to that. And it's funny when you say, I'm an attorney, or I want to be an attorney, you get oohs and ahs from the world, It's still kind of a high profile, put you on a pedestal thing, and that begins to feed an ego. You think you're doing something wonderful, So I spent so much of my life laser focused on that. And truth be told, money was a great part of it too, right? I wanted it all back then, and I still do. It seemed like the perfect thing, and I succeeded. And when I say succeeded, I was very successful, and it's I really want to air quote right now. I was that version of successful. I had the amazing job, the big office in the fancy building, and I had the title, and I had the money, and I had the clients. And about a year into it, I realized, is this it? This is not what I signed up for.
This is so interesting. So many parallels to, I'll say, my story. Graduated undergrad with a political science degree. I don't even know what you do with that other than go to law school. And so I was fortunate. I got accepted to the University of Iowa, applied to the University of Minnesota, hadn't heard back from them, and got married in the meantime and moved to the Twin Cities. And so I figured if I don't get into the U of Minnesota, I'll just work for a year. And fortunately, I did. I worked for a year for a publicly traded company that was filing bankruptcy, and I was in charge of the data room. And so I got to work with all of these corporate attorneys in some of the best law firms in the nation. We worked with 2 different law firms because there was a conflict of interest. And it was so interesting when that change happened. All these first-year attorneys showed up from Stanford, Harvard, Yale, and to a person, I remember we were all riding up in the elevator to the 26th floor where all the data was, and they were like, "We don't care what you do, don't do this." And I'm like, wait a minute. You guys are the best law school students, graduated from the best schools.
You achieved it.
Working at the best firms, and you're telling me not to do it? And they're like, it's just not worth it. Like we have to build 2x our salary. Every hour is not a billable hour. Like it's just a grind, and none of us like it. And we're in Minneapolis. We're going to be in Minneapolis 5 or 6 days a week. Our families or people we care about are in cities spread across the United States. And I was like, oh my gosh. And so in the meantime, I get a full ride to law school, to a small school in the Twin Cities. And I'm like, how do I do this? What do I do? Long story short, I was late for my first class buying a piece of real estate, and my wife encouraged me to quit before midterms, and so I did, and now here we are. So
I
I think
love
we
it.
both sort of were on that, and I saw some of these partners I was working with, like, their health, I could almost see them getting unhealthier. The
Before your
bags
very
under
eyes.
their eyes. They're adding weight. I'm just like, oh my goodness, this is.
Mhm.
I don't think this is what I want to do. So,
No, no,
yeah,
no.
it sounds like that realization kicked in for both of us pretty early.
Uh,
So,
it's funny. That's funny. I
mhm,
always, when people say to me, "Oh, my son or daughter is thinking about law school," and I'll say, "Do you want me to talk them into it or out of it? Because I can do
yeah,
both
yeah,
pretty easily, one easier
mhm,
than the other."
yeah, yeah. And I tell people, I'm like, here's my experience, but I've got some great relationships with people that enjoy the practice of law, and
Absolutely.
I can get you plugged into those folks, and you
Absolutely.
can get their perspective. But
Absolutely. No, that's
yeah,
true.
no,
That's true.
that's so good.
That's
Yeah.
fascinating. That's fascinating.
So can you tell me about, like, okay, there was like the light bulb went off, right?
Mhm.
Okay, this it looks like I'm having success from a worldly perspective, but
Mhm.
internally I'm maybe not
Mhm. Mhm.
uh, not as satisfied as I
Mhm.
thought I was going to be. So can you
Mhm.
talk a little bit about sort of that shift and what happened next?
Well, what's interesting is I think when you've worked so hard to get somewhere and you thought that was the dream, and it's everyone else's dream and it's an accepted and rewarded dream, it makes you think there's something wrong with you at first, right?
Hmm.
What is it about me? Can I not hack it?
Yeah.
Am I not good enough? You go through all of that, and sometimes you're told that maybe you don't have what it takes, and then again, ego kicks in, and so I did spend a period of time battling it, thinking
Hmm.
I can get through this. It will get better. And then I did what you did. I observed everyone around me, and I looked at who here is a role model, who is living a life that I want to have in the future.
Hmm.
And I couldn't find any women living the life. I remember going through hundreds of women at the law firm going, not one.
Yeah.
There was one man. I was like, oh, I could see myself. And it turns out he was independently wealthy and really didn't need the job. And it was
Hmm.
a whole different reason for him being there, right?
Yeah.
And so that set me on the path of there's got to be something else. I'm not willing to accept that it's either this and this is success or it's nothing. I just give it up and I go,
Hmm.
become a surf bum somewhere, or whatever that is. Like
Yeah.
there is something good in between, and it actually took me a long time because I'm quite methodical and I don't want to enter into things lightly to work through that. I actually moved from a law firm to an in-house position, thinking that would give me more freedom.
Hmm.
Um, and it didn't. It didn't. I didn't have to track every 6 minutes of my day, but I
Yeah.
was I was on duty 24/7, right?
Hmm.
And so, and it was honestly having a family that shifted things for me.
Yeah.
And I think your priorities do shift when there are major things. It doesn't have to be having children, but when major events happen in your life, I think it causes you to view the lens of what you're doing. And I started listening to a lot of personal development work,
Hmm.
um, work that encouraged me to look to a life beyond, a life that I could create. It didn't have to be the set pattern that everyone else was on. And I just got curious and I trusted myself to be open to whatever might come my way. And I remember one day sitting at the desk in the big office with the fancy glass and the title, just a piece of paper saying, okay, if I could design my dream life, no one gets to see this. Like I
Hmm.
can write whatever I want on this piece of paper. I don't have to be embarrassed.
Yeah.
What would it look like?
Hmm.
And it was fantastical at the time. And I love to get people to do this because it's really hard for people to just suspend reality, especially for
Yeah.
grown-ups, right? To suspend reality. Like
Yeah.
we don't do that. And I wrote down, I remember, work less, make more money,
Yep.
enjoy beautiful things around me, enjoy time with people, stop
Hmm.
outsourcing my life to people.
Yeah.
I was outsourcing my life to people so I could go make more money to pay the people to go live my life for me, right?
Yeah.
Um, and I wrote a bunch of stuff and I wrote, I want it all.
Yeah.
And then I thought, oh my goodness, how dare I ask for it all? And then I thought, yes,
Yeah.
I'm going to dare to ask for it all. And how do I do that? And then I became open and curious to opportunities that came my way.
I love it. I love it. And there's uh, so many things that you touched on there. Like first you created this new possibility, right? And then you became open to it, and then it's like the door started opening and you're like, okay, this can be real. Because I think so often we get hung up in our limiting beliefs, just sort of put us in this box and we're like, nope, I can't. It often becomes an or scenario. I can have this or this. It's not an and scenario. I can't have it all, right? I can't make good money and have a personal life and enjoy time with my family, right? Like I have to pick one. And so good for you for sort of recognizing those beliefs and then going, all right, I'm going to accept this as a new reality for me and strive to get there. Now, can I bring it to a real practical for a second?
Absolutely.
Because I think there's this situation, and I can look back at my life as an entrepreneur, and I'm sure you've been there, and it's like we're in this place of like overwhelm. You were talking about outsourcing your life to people, right? Like I don't even have enough time to go like do the things that I want to do. So how do we like, if we think about this idea of like the pressures of life from when I wake up to when I go to bed, I just feel like it's on me. How do I create any margin to start creating some of these small little habits that will help get me out of this, I'll call it cycle that I'm in that is just burning me out?
That's a really good question. It starts with acknowledging and seeing and identifying that you have this burning need to make a change, that you're potentially in a state of burnout. I think so many people are living in this state of accepting overwhelm or depletion or levels of unhappiness as just how it is. It's kind of what you're supposed to do. And you stay that way until you retire, maybe, and then you get to go live a life, right? And then. And so it starts with making a decision that there is something more for you, that you get to have something more, that you deserve to have something more.
Yeah.
When you do that and you make that commitment, because the commitment has to be there first, right? The commitment to allotting the time, because if we don't think we're worth the time, then we won't find it, right? If we're not valuable enough, we're going to put everyone else ahead of us, work, family, whatever situation. So it's making that commitment to ourselves first. And then it really is about finding clarity around the areas that you need to make a change in and asking yourself the hard questions. And that's not easy sometimes. So it's looking at your life. I like to see our lives in buckets for areas. And work, by the way, is not one of the buckets.
Yeah.
Because work is just work, right? Career is just career, right? It's not one of our buckets. So our physical health, our emotional and mental health, our relationships, and spirituality, whatever that means to you, right? And looking at those 4 areas and seeing where you're depleted, where you're less than, where you really could improve. It takes time, right? I don't know when I work with a client. You don't know when you work with people where they're lacking, right? They need to do that deep dive. I found people find it easy to look at physical. Oh, well, I should work out more. I need more sleep, right? That's an easy one. Relationships are harder. I'm not showing up for my kids. I'm not spending time with my spouse, right? But being aware of these areas and asking yourself the hard questions, then again, coming back to making the commitment to filling these buckets, doing things intentionally every day that will help me in one of these areas feel better, show up better, and trusting that it will happen, and then carving out the time. We all have time. We have time. Time expands. People don't like to believe that, but time does expand, right? The busiest of people can make time. You can find time in your day. What people don't like to do sometimes is make that commitment and carve out the time for themselves. It feels selfish. It feels like it's a waste. Or you're stuck in an old cycle of, but I get up and I immediately, chug coffee and I get in the car because I've snoozed 5 times. And so for me, And for a lot of my clients, it starts with a really good morning routine.
Yep. Yep.
Not a morning person.
Yep.
I trained myself to become a morning person.
Yeah.
Getting up before everyone else and having
Mhm.
some practices that you do every day
Yep.
that become as simple as brushing your teeth. You don't
Yep.
think about it anymore.
Mhm.
And then you start to layer and layer. And I think the important thing is it's not an all or nothing. It's
Mhm.
not, okay, I have to start going to the gym. I have to spend time with my spouse. I have to
Yep.
do journal. I have to meditate. I have to, you slowly start to implement these things every day so
Mhm.
that it becomes second
Yep.
nature to you.
Yeah, this is great. Okay, so there's so many things I want to touch on there. So one of the things you acknowledged, and I think this is so good, is we can be aware of a problem, but oftentimes there's not the willingness or the acceptance that I need to go take action on it, right?
Mhm,
And I think the easiest one to look at is like my physical health. You
mhm,
mentioned that. Like, yes, I've got some issues with my physical health, but I'm not willing to sort of take the time and energy to make that a priority.
mhm,
And that leads me to um, Stephen Covey's like 7 Habits of Highly Effective People and his rocks
mhm,
idea, right? Like if we
mhm,
put the big rocks in first, the most
mhm,
important things,
mhm,
and I'm going to argue that the things that you outlined, physical, emotional and mental health, relationships and spirituality, like those are big rocks that need to be get
mhm,
attention, and work is like Covey says, you put the big rocks in first and then the medium-sized pebble, and then if you pour the sand in,
mhm,
it all sort of fits. If you put
mhm,
the sand in first and then the pebbles, and then there's no room for the big rocks. And
mhm,
it's like you mentioned, in that scenario, time expands to accommodate all of those things well. And there's also um, I like the analogy of when you get on an airplane, they tell you to put your air mask on first in
mhm,
case of emergency before you help someone else. Because it's like, if I'm passed out, I'm useless. I can't help anybody if I'm
right.
incapacitated. And so I think about that in these things, and it's like, well, I will take care of myself after I do all these other things. It's
Mhm,
like, no, you have to take care of yourself first, because when you're showing up with your best self, you can be more effective in all these other areas, and you're probably so much more efficient with better results. So
mhm. Agree.
I just wanted to bring all those pieces into the mix,
Mhm,
because I think it's so true. And like with our clients, we talk about we have an acronym called REACH.
mhm,
Okay, so the R's for relationships. Agree with you there.
mhm,
E's for experiences, like
mhm.
hobbies, and I even put bad experiences in there. Things
Uh-huh.
I've screwed up, I've learned so much from, and I wouldn't give those things up.
Without
So
doubt. Without.
that's a good one. A's for advancement or growth, like just
Uh-huh.
continuing to make
Yep.
progress. C's for contribution.
Mhm.
This fits into the spirituality thing. The scriptures
Okay.
tell us it's
Mhm,
better to give than receive.
mhm,
H is for our health, and we think there's 3 components to that. Physical health, right? Like, can't give me
mhm,
cancer for any amount of money. There's my emotional, mental health, right? If I'm
mhm,
depressed and I can't get out of bed, what good is
mhm,
it? And then there's a spiritual health component as well. So I
mhm.
couldn't agree more with
Love
you on
reach.
those buckets. We think those all align perfectly with the way we think about these things. So
I love that.
that's fantastic. I appreciate that process to getting out of overwhelm is like, just take one small bite at a time, because I
One.
think social media can be problematic. It's like, if you look at all of the advice on what your morning routine should look like, I think a morning routine is great. I am an early riser and I check a lot of the important boxes in the morning. But if you're not careful, like, it can be a 4-hour morning routine between your
Yeah.
journaling, working out, cold plunging, sauna,
Yeah. Yeah.
meditation. It's like, okay, I don't have time for
You
all
you
this.
need the laminated sheet with check, 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 check,
Yes,
check,
yes.
check, check, check,
Yeah.
check. And one thing to expand on that just a little bit,
Hmm.
the thing that I found through working with hundreds of people in this area of habit formation that a lot of people discount is make it fun too.
Hmm. Yeah.
Make it
Yep.
fun because guess what? If you're not going to put a habit into place that you actually enjoy and will do,
Hmm.
you're a human. What's going to happen?
Not gonna do
You're
it.
going to avoid it. You're not going to do it. You
Hmm.
might do it for a week or 2 weeks or whatever. You'll never get to the 21 days or however many days they
Right.
say, right?
Hmm.
So find things that are fun and that you will look forward to do, and that becomes sacred to you.
Yeah.
Your morning routine is sacred to you now.
Hmm. Yep.
and play around with it. If it's not working out for you, guess what? You get to decide. That might work for Claire or Patrick. It doesn't work for me. I'm going to find the thing that works for me.
I love that. And I think there's also, we're programmed to want a drive-through breakthrough. We want it all better right now. And I think the thing that we discount is the impact of small incremental improvements, like stacked on top of each other over a long period of time. You can get 12 months out and look back and be like, I don't even recognize that person that's 12 months ago. Where if I take an extreme example, right? Like, let's say my fitness is out of whack and I go to the gym and work out for 24 hours straight. Like, that's actually going to be worse for me than not working out at all, because I'm like not going to be able to move, for a week. So it's, I just need to show up for probably 30 minutes every day for, a couple months, and I'm going to get way more impact out of that commitment than I am like this massive effort. And so, I think the small incremental improvements and really, also you touched on this too. Like, I love building systems around things. Like, I like to make it super easy for me to eat well, to move my body, like have all these things sort of lined up and go. So
I think it's wonderful. It's wonderful. No.
Another thing you touched on is sleep. I like to sort of beat the drum on how valuable sleep is. I wear this thing on my wrist called Whoop. It tracks my recovery.
Mine is
and my
charging
sleep
right
score.
now.
Yes, so, I love it. So I love my Whoop because it sort of gamifies my recovery and rest and all those other things, and I find out what things help me sleep better. So you touched on sleep. Can you just talk about how much sleep impacts our just general well-being?
Goodness. Well, and I'm not a statistician, and so I'm going to generalize here, but they do like in lack of sleep the next day, such physical impairment, you get behind the wheel and it's as if you've had a certain amount of alcohol, you are physically impaired. Our bodies and our brains need that time to recalibrate, to reset. And we live in a world, it's just become normal for us to wear it as a badge of honor. I only got 4 hours sleep and I'm still going, and I've got the caffeine or the energy drink. And we don't realize the compounding effect that lack of sleep has on the health of our system in general. And one of the biggest discoveries I've made in recent years is nervous system regulation. That's what the Whoop helps you with, right? You really can learn what's impacting your nervous system in a good way and a bad way. And it's fun to see when you do all of the things that are right, moving your body even just a little bit, getting consistent, because that's the other thing that it's consistent sleep, right? It's not 8 hours one night and then 3 or 4 the next. It's consistently, so that your body has that ability, your brain has that ability to recharge and reset. We are not machines. We're not. Right. We're not machines. And that is the time. Our bodies were designed to go to sleep when it got dark and wake up when it got light, and then go to action throughout the day. And so I really, it makes me really just sad. And I've lived this life, by the way, where I did without sleep and I kept going. And luckily nothing terrible happened to me, but my health was compromised. I know my judgment was compromised. I know my ability to show up and do my best was compromised. Why not set yourself up for the best possible success? And what I found, most people, when they say, I just don't have time to get enough sleep, we can find that, the Netflix show, that Netflix show, you don't have to, but my husband, okay, well, we can have a conversation, we can do so many things to have good sleep hygiene that, but most people don't give it a good enough shot is what I've found. And if you can gamify it the way you have, like, better yet, because we all love a challenge. We all like to compete in some ways and win something, right? And so if we all want to see the green on our little thing, then, when we see a yellow, we're like, oh, what can I do? So it is one of the simplest things that we all need, that we all will sacrifice
Yeah.
Simple other ha- basic human needs like hydration and nutrition, we sacrifice it
Yeah. Yeah.
because we think there's not enough time or someone else needs us.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. And there was a show on called Mythbusters. It's been off the air for a
Mm,
while, but they did a study where they took some of the Mythbuster staff and they made them sleep deprived,
mm,
and they gave them a driving test, and then they gave them alcohol, and it was amazing to see how many drinks it took to get to the sleep deprived state, like the how poor of a driver they would be. And so it was really interesting how it was the equivalent of, like, I don't know, 7 or 8 drinks is what being sleep deprived was like. I was like, oh my goodness, it's incredible, right? Yeah, and your likelihood of injury goes up when you're sleep deprived. Yeah, I just feel like it just gets into this bad cycle. Now you're drinking caffeine throughout the afternoon, and then your sleep is, people are like, oh, I can drink a bunch of caffeine and go to sleep. You're right. But your recovery is not going to
it's,
be the same. Your
yeah,
quality of sleep is not going to be the same as if
yeah,
you like start, like you mentioned, getting your sleep hygiene in order and doing some of those good things before
yeah,
you
yeah.
go to bed.
My
So
clients are often somewhat disappointed at first, and then they see the magic of it when we start working together. And one of the first things I talk about is, what does your sleep look like? What
mhm,
is your hydration, your nutrition? These
yeah,
basic things. And they're like, when are we going to get to the achieving? And I was like,
yeah,
we will get there, but
yeah.
we got to start with the foundation.
Yep, absolutely. Good. So you're sort of leading me to, are there other physical things we should be doing? Obviously, hydration matters. I think nutrition probably matters. Is there some other physical things we should be paying attention to lay a solid foundation before we, start trying to life hack our way into, balance?
We've talked about exercise. It doesn't have to
Hmm.
be hitting a gym, right? It can
Hmm.
just be getting outside and becoming
Yeah.
aware of our surroundings. I think, again, we as a culture, as a nation, have gotten used to being indoors, being behind a desk, being behind a device, and we just don't get outside and experience. So I tell people, just even go for a walk, go stand outside, just
Hmm.
go experience
Yeah.
being outside. So taking little breaks throughout the day to just go outside and breathe
Hmm.
is huge.
Yeah.
Breath work. I don't know if you
Mm.
uh, are a proponent of it, but it's one of my favorite things. So many of us don't breathe.
Yeah.
And, I say that and people go, of course I'm breathing. I'm like, kind of
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
we hold our breath a lot. Breath work is the simplest. It doesn't cost you a thing. No one needs
Yeah.
to know you're doing it. You can sit behind your desk in a busy environment and do breath work, but taking in that oxygen and letting it do its work within your body, that is one of the best things I've
Yeah.
found for nervous system regulation, for
Yeah.
clarity, for mental focus.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a great book out there called Breathe by James Nestor, I believe it
Mhm,
is. And it talks about how important it is in so many different domains, and how, like, even the shape of our face will change when we start breathing properly, like how
mhm,
it's so good for us. And then
mhm,
I've also paid some attention to Wim Hof,
mhm,
the like he's almost
mhm.
a superhuman with what he can
Yes.
do with his breathing. So
Yeah.
I have to admit, uh, I don't have like a consistent breath work practice. I do some like cold showers and
Mhm,
plunges and that type of
mhm,
thing, and
mhm,
my breathing definitely comes into play during
mhm,
those things. But
mhm,
I've got some friends that the breath work component is very important. So
mhm.
I appreciate you bringing that up, and that's something I'm going to start paying a little more attention to in my life.
I, I,
I
I
know.
I highly encourage it. And then tell me the ideas that come,
Mm, yeah.
the clarity and the ideas. That's when you're a creative, particularly an entrepreneur, and
Mhm.
that's part of your business world, is coming up with ideas and seeking solutions. It's brilliant for that. Um, and just one of the biggest things that I have found with my clients, with myself, that can really bring you back to a good present state and help
Mhm.
regulate. And call it whatever you will: meditation, prayer, reflection.
Mm-hmm.
We don't, as a busy nation culture, spend enough time going within and really thinking. We don't give ourselves the time to do that. It doesn't need to be hours upon end. It can be a few minutes. Again, you can do it in the morning, you can do it in the evening, but spending time just reflecting, seeing what comes to you. Again, that could be in a prayerful way for those who like to pray. It can be in a meditative way. It can just be playing music and just stopping. Because so much of our lives is going on to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, and who needs me and what's pinging and what's dinging. And so taking that time, it's for me, sacred time. It's so valuable.
Yeah. No, that's fantastic. And I think you hit on a really valuable point. Like, we're so having our phones close to us, it's so reactive to, like, our brains are, we'll take just a moment to just be silent, and we can't handle it. We have to, like, pick up a phone and see what's happening. And so a practice that I've started is Andrew Huberman's got my attention around sunlight first thing in the morning. So I will go outside and get my 10 minutes of sunlight after working out. And I just don't have my phone. I set a timer on my watch, and I just am quiet. And it's amazing how the first few minutes I'm, like, sort of anxious, trying to figure out, what I can do to distract myself. And then I just sort of be present in nature and sort of hear the birds. And I do use it as a time to pray as well. And it's just good. So,
and it doesn't have to be long. Like you said, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever it is. I think if you just give it a shot, you would be amazed. But we don't realize how much. I love the experiment when you're in a room with other people and one person pulls out a phone and then it's tick, 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 everyone, and I'll do my best to, no, I'm just going to be here and be present and just notice.
You brought this point up with relationships. We as a family do a good job. I'm sure we could be better, but when we go out to dinner or we're having dinner, the phones are somewhere else, right? And oftentimes we'll go out and I'll look over at the next table, and everybody at the table's, like, got their face in their phone. I'm like, why don't you just talk to each other?
No, you're right there. You're right there. And that's something else that I love to talk to people about is connectedness, right? It's be it your family, be it a person in line at the grocery store, seeing them and engaging with them. That connectedness is something else that we as people need. And again, it's something that my clients think, okay, when are we going to get to the propelling my life part? This is all part of it. It is all part of you enriching your life.
Yep. I love it. That's fantastic. So now I'd like to move on to talking a little bit about balance. Okay. Now I'm going to get nitpicky with my words here. Okay. So
Please.
Balance in my mind connotates, like, equal weights, right? I don't feel like our lives are balanced. I like the word harmony better. Maybe like I can hear some music and there's just the right amount of violin in the mix, right? And there might be more saxophone. So and so I feel like our lives need to be in harmony. And I love the buckets. And I guess one of the questions I have is, what is the process, for lack of a better term, to if I'm at a 7 in one category, going to an 8's okay. But if I'm at a 2 and I can go to a 3 or 4, like, that's better, right? Like, how do you help people, like, sort of assess where they're at in the different buckets and then start to put a plan in place to, like, bring some of those, I'll call them lower numbers, up a little.
I love this. Oh, this is wonderful. So, I totally agree. I mean, balance requires me. I'm in the middle and I'm doing this somehow, and something's going to give. I visualize the buckets, the levels, and it's sort of like when you said play music and the harmony, right? There's a flow to it, right? And at certain points in a life or in a piece of music, some may be a little higher, some may be a little lower, and that's okay. That's part of what puts this kind of collective, holistic life together, right? And creates the harmony. And so, again, back to my 4 buckets, my 4 categories. I first have people assess, kind of truthfully, where are you? Where are you? Where are you feeling most depleted? Where are you at a 2 or a 3? Where are you at a 6 or a 7? And we still, you could be at a 9. We're still going to identify these simple, doable, fun things that you can start to implement in your life to keep topping you up, to keep those levels adjusting. But that's the key. On a daily basis, sometimes there needs to be a little bit of a rebalancing. On a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, there needs to be a truthful rebalancing of where you are. And there may be seasons in life or a particular day in life where one category's off a little, right? And that's okay. But my goal for people is to never completely run dry, to be completely depleted where you have to build yourself up. So health, you get so depleted in your health that you're knocked out for 2 weeks, you're sick as a dog, and you can't get up. No one wants to have to come back from that. And so to be able to keep just a little bit in there and top things up where you need it, that's what the harmony is for me. And so it does require someone to pay attention to how they're feeling physically, to looking at the relationships. Where have I been great with my relationships? Where have I been lacking? How would I rate myself? And people find their cadence. It's not a one size fits all, which again, spoiler alert, we're not all robots. You and I will have different levels, right? We're not a one size fits all. What works for me might not work for you, but you find what works for you within it. So it may be a weekly, it may be a monthly rebalancing of your buckets, and start to be really clear about, you know what, I said I would do that and I just haven't been. It's no longer important to me, but you know what is? I'm going to put this in and try it out. And we get to make these decisions every day in what is going to fill us up and build us up and replenish us and revitalize us. But you have to put it front and center. And I've found the best way people can do that is to really log it and be strategic about it at first, at least, but then come back to it. And if you feel like you're off a little, just adjust. You get to adjust this.
Sure. I love that. That's fantastic. Thank you. And so I think about all of this work that you're doing, and really the goal, I believe, the goal is to settle into our passions, right? Like let's do the things that we're passionate about. Now, I feel like this word gets tossed around a lot, and I think it gets confused at times. Like, hey, kids, go pursue your passions, and it's like, I don't even know what my passions are, right? I haven't spent enough time doing anything to really like develop this. And it's like, I could see bouncing around from one thing to the next, you know, and if I confuse my passions with like happiness, because sometimes like pursuing my passions looks a lot like hard work, to make something come to be. And I think there's a lot of reward that comes from that hard work. But I'd like to just pause and talk about passions and maybe how to develop some of those. Because I think you've talked about some things early on in our discussion around, almost like the deferred life plan, like I will do that later. And we don't even know what we enjoy doing anymore. So how do we go about like figuring out what our passions are and like sort of developing those? Because it's sometimes our lives between work and family and just the busyness, like we sort of forget all those things. So could you talk a little bit about passion?
We do forget about it. And one of the best things when people start to reignite this is they remember. It's when you were a kid, you remembered all the things you loved, all the things that lit you up, all of those things, right? And somewhere along the way, we put them behind to be sensible and to go make the money and to take care of the family. And so passion, to me, brings us to fulfillment, purpose. Why am I here? Why am I here, right? And so to really ask the questions, and you can ask, what am I passionate about? What is my why for being here? Why do I think I show up every day? And so I ask simple questions, and I actually have people get very, very honest and journal on this. And the simple questions are, what lights me up? What lights me up?
Sure.
What fires me up? What can I get behind? And I can just feel that energy. What feels right. There may be the thing that I think I should do, or everyone else is doing it, or it seems like it's the right thing to do, but it doesn't feel right to me. So that feeling is important. What feels right and aligned to me? What am I good at?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? What am I good at? I'm good at a whole lot of things. And then there's the other stuff, right? But
Yeah.
what am I good at? And what makes me feel truly alive? And I think if we can be bold and claim the answers to those questions,
Mm-hmm.
and we're not committing ourselves to giving up work. And I always say, go live on a goat farm.
Sure.
I had a friend who had a goat farm. And so that's why I picture this goat farm. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying you really, again, getting clarity and asking yourself these questions, because you deserve to know the answers to these. You
Mm-hmm.
deserve to champion for the answers to these. And you can start looking for little ways. Just like I said, once I became open and curious, doors started opening, ideas started coming to what you can do with the thing that lights you up, fires you up, feels good, you're good at, and makes you feel alive. It may or may not be a money-making thing.
Mm-hmm.
It may be.
Yep.
But it surely will be a fulfilling, aligned, value-driven thing that if you find that, it can really propel you in so many other areas, is what I've seen with my clients. But the first step is to claim it and to know you deserve it. And we all get to do this. It doesn't have to wait for retirement. It doesn't have to only be with the child.
Yep. Yep. I love that. So I'm going to make a couple of distinctions. Like my wife is excellent at running her business. Okay. She's got 400 employees. She is so much better at running a business than I am. Like it's amazing. Okay. It is not where her passion lies. She's very skillful at it. But like, if you ask her where her passion lies, she's like, I want to be out in my bare feet in my garden, growing some plants. Our yard looks like it fell out of Better Homes and Gardens. Like the plants are amazing. The flowers are gorgeous this time of year. So it's a ton of fun. She's an amazing cook. She loves to design, like all of those things are where her passion lies.
Yep.
And she's like, I'm sort of glad that it's not my career, because I can just go do it. I can do it the way I want. I don't have to fit it into anybody else's box. And I enjoy it. And she makes time to do those things. And so when she shows up to work, she's like ready to rock and roll for work. Where I'm like the opposite. I love my work. I love solving the problems that I get to solve. And my passion lies here. Again, over my shoulder, it says make life great. Like I want to help our clients make great lives,
Right.
and if we can do that by sending less money to the IRS, like it's amazing. So like we get really excited about solving those complex financial problems. So that's where I think my passion lies. And I've heard this, there's three circles, and when they all overlap, like that's a great career. It's like, do you have the passion for it? Do you have the skill set to do it well? Like I might be really passionate about singing, but I'm terrible, right? And there's going to be no market value for that. So that's not going to be a great career. But it's like, if I'm passionate, I've got the skill set, and there's market demand for it. It's like, that's the sweet spot. And so I just appreciate, just looking at your journey, you went from, hey, I might be really skilled as a corporate attorney. There's a market demand for this, but this is not where my passion lies. And so you went, well, where does my passion lie? And you've found a way to bring your skill, and there's obviously demand for this. So you've seen to found that sweet spot in that that diagram as well. So
yeah. I never take that for granted. I value that I did find that sweet spot. I didn't know when I started on this journey that I would, right? I asked myself those questions, and I found the things that I enjoyed and that lit me up and felt easy to me, right? And fun. This is easy and fun. But I love that you talked about your wife, because I want to give permission to the people who have a career, have a business, have a working life that they're like, yeah, it's great. And I appreciate it and I value it, but my passion lies here. For them to see that, showing up over here can fuel the passion over here, and living into the thing that they're good at and that they're passionate about, the gardening, the cooking, enriches them, because again, we're all one person, right? We bring ourselves everywhere. We're here and we're here.
Yeah.
Enriches you to show up over here and do the very best you can do over here. And sometimes I'm asked by clients, but if I'm just lacking in it over here, but I have to stay, there are so many things dependent on me. What do I do? I don't think it's realistic to say, go be passionate about it, right? If it's just not there. But you can fall in love with little things about it again. You can appreciate and have gratitude for things about it. And that starts to help kind of fuel you in that area, even if you don't have a driving passion for it. I hope that makes sense, but there's always something you can be grateful for and fall in love with again.
It does. It absolutely does. And one thing that I think that I've come to acknowledge is I never like to put myself in a position, and I don't use never very often, but I don't like to put myself in a position where I don't feel like I have choices. For example, if I believe that I have to keep doing this job, it's going to limit myself, like you talked about early on, to seeing what's possible, what opportunities are out there, what doors could be open for me to go pursue something different. And so I think we have to also maybe acknowledge that we always have options. Now, we might not like the consequence of those options, right? Like if I quit my job today, my family might rely on me to bring home an income. And so that could be a foolish decision. But it may not be a foolish decision to take a season of my life and commit to, that side hustle that might be the full-time thing that, I'm going to devote some time on some evenings and weekends to, I'm going to cancel my Netflix subscription, delete my social media, right? And the time I'm devoting to those things, I'm going to devote to my side hustle. Now that can lead me to a new opportunity that I'm now in that sweet spot of passion, skill, and market value. So,
I love that. I love that so much.
Very good. All right, Claire, this has been a fantastic conversation. I'd love to talk a little bit about how people can engage with you, because I look at, I can go read a book, but here's what when I go pursue things that I think are valuable in my life, I tend to go find, I'll call it a coach to help me along the way, right? So I'm just going to start listing the coaches I have in my life. I have a concierge doctor that helps me, make sure my health is at its sort of peak. I have a virtual coach on the fitness side of things. I've got a mental health coach I go to every week just to make sure that I'm well there. I've got a couple different business coaches that I'm tuned into. I've had relationship coaches in the past because my marriage is very important. So all of those pieces are super important. And so I look at this concept of like burnout and living a life where I've got full buckets of physical, emotional, mental health. My relationships are strong, and I'm solid spiritually, as being something that it'd be nice to have somebody guide me through the process on. So, can you just outline all of your offerings and what it looks like to work with Claire?
Absolutely. Well, I think I have a soup to nuts offering, and I did that on purpose to allow my ideal client, or the person that I really want to impact, to come in at any stage of their journey. Sure. So I'll start with the simplest way. I have free resources available to people that they can just easily, without worrying about any commitment, participate in, and they get value from them. And I made sure that they will get some value from them. They're not throwaway things. They're things I would use. I have very simple digital courses that people can do in their own time. And I wanted it to be affordable, simple, something you could do in your lunch hour, you could do listening in the car. I thought about how I would consume. And so I have a wide variety of digital courses that people can do self-paced, and they get amazing value from those too. Any one of those courses will take them on a transformational journey, depending on where they are. Everyone is at a different stage in what they need and want, or think they need and want. Okay. Up the scale, I have a more intense, as I would call it, 7-module course that truly takes the client on a journey that I went on, that it took me years to go on. That was painful. All of the trial and error. I was able to synthesize down all of my learning and failure and agony and put it into really doable. And again, I'm thinking about the busy professional who feels like they got too much on their plate, right?
Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
want change, but how do you add one more thing? And
Yeah.
so it's self-paced, and
Yeah.
they get to be part of a private group as well that
Cool.
I coach in once a month. So there's a group
Mhm.
setting, this community, and they go at their own pace, whatever they're used to. And they have full access to that for the rest of their
Yep.
lives. The last thing I offer is private coaching, one-to-one coaching that takes the person, it's typically, again, a busy professional on that transformational journey, but it's really tailored to where they are
Mhm.
and what their needs are. And it's interesting. I don't have a formula. I do and I don't,
Sure.
right? Because
Yep.
everyone is different. And
Yep.
so we kind of pivot from each other, and people move at different stages in their journey. And it ends up being very tailored to
Mhm.
the individual. I meet for 90-minute sessions, and we get to know each other. And it truly is transformational.
Great.
It's fun. It's fun.
Yeah.
So
Good.
lots of ways that I
Yeah.
love to make it easy to work with people.
I love it. You mentioned ideal client. Who is your ideal client? Like if you start outlining who your avatar is, who's that? Who is that person?
So I always say it's who I used to be, right?
Mhm.
I'm reaching out through the
Yeah.
screen to the person that I remember being. That's the person I want to help. So it is typically a busy professional, male or female.
Mhm.
I love working with men and women who has worked really hard, a lot of drive, a lot of success, a
Mhm.
lot of wonderful things in their life. They may or may not have a family, but
Yep.
they have found themselves in the ideal position, what they thought they were working towards, and
Mhm.
they're stuck.
Yep.
That's the word that comes up a lot with my
Yep.
clients, stuck. I feel
Yep.
stuck. They feel guilty because they feel stuck. They're
Yep.
embarrassed because they feel stuck, and they don't know where to turn or how
Yep.
to get themselves out of it, but they want to get out of it.
Yeah.
They want to, right?
Yeah. Yep.
They're not looking to blame other people. They're not looking to blame their situation. They're the person who will
Mhm.
continue to drive and work, but
Yep.
they know there's another answer for them. I love to work with people who want to work
Yeah.
with
Yep.
me, that are engaged,
Sure.
and will put in the time for themselves.
Yep.
They value themselves enough to know that they're worth doing this.
All right.
That's the person. And the most important thing is they don't have to
Yeah.
give up what they've worked towards.
I think there's so many parallels. Like, just to give you a little context, we work with entrepreneurs that at the end of the day, you can see over my shoulder, it says make life great. That is
Mhm.
what we're trying to help our clients, not solve a money problem. We've got a life problem that, if we can, for lack of a better term, pay less tax, build more wealth, and then create this financial freedom,
Mhm.
that allows us to pursue this great life. And we should be doing that all along the way. And
Mhm.
it's interesting how we see clients that think that satisfaction comes from like hitting that next revenue milestone. But then all of a sudden they're burnout, they're having, a mental breakdown, they're physically ill, they can't go to work for a week or two just because their body's like, nope, you know.
Mhm.
Um, I think those things are like we have this society sort of creates this misperception that like that's what success looks like, and it's like
Mhm.
I don't think it is. I don't. I think striving and multiplying is a good thing, but I don't think it's the end all be all.
Right.
And if we don't have some balance or harmony in our lives, like it's a problem.
Mhm. I agree. I agree. We're right. We're on the same page. I love it.
You've got a number of different ways that people can engage with you. Can you just
Right.
walk us through maybe sort of what the easiest way is for somebody to sort of check you out all the way up to maybe what one-on-one uh, coaching looks like?
Absolutely. No, and I always invite a conversation. I'm
Hmm.
I'm not a scary person. I'm an open person, and I love people, and I love to talk. So,
Hmm.
but I also like to meet people where they are. So, however people are comfortable. A lot of people find me via social media.
Hmm.
I have a LinkedIn profile, Claire Hetherington Darr. I have an Instagram profile
Hmm.
at I am Claire Darr. What they'll find when they go there is I speak from the heart about what's important in my life and what I know helps people. And I have various free resources available that they can click on links. I have a website, clairedarr.com, and the resources will help. There's a variety of things for whatever you might need in life, from self-care to audio affirmations to goal setting and productivity. I have various digital products for people to do in their own time. The filling the buckets it's standalone and it's very fun and exciting. I have a transformational product and journey, or people can work with me one-to-one in a private coaching session. I am a firm believer now that everyone will benefit from having a coach in some form in their life. It depends on where you are in your journey, what you're ready for. And so I think with the suite of offerings and way you can work with me, some are free, some are paid, that you will benefit in some way. My goal is to have an impact in someone's life and start to make incremental change and feeling better every day. And having a coach is I think just such a smart move for people. I have many coaches too. I have many coaches, and I've had many relationships with coaches, and they've had a season in my life, some of them. And so I invite anyone to reach out to me, message me directly, and I would love to help in any way I can and continue conversations.
I love it. And we will have links to all of those things in the show notes. Also, this episode will be coming out on July 16th, and that's going to be Tuesday. And you also have a 3-day free workshop that starts today. If people are listening to this,
it starts on the 16th, actually.
Yes, right.
Yes.
So when this episode airs, you can go to the link in the show notes. We'll have that for the 3-day free workshop that people can just tune in and start to figure out how to beat the burnout. So that'll be
tune
great.
in, listen. You'll get some great tips. My goal is by the end of the 3 days, you feel different. You feel a shift. And when people register, I'll give you the recordings as well, so you can listen to them in your own time and have access to that. So I would love anyone to come along. Anyone to come along. Thank you for talking about that. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you, Claire. I've appreciated this conversation. Is there anything else that we need to touch on that we haven't talked about so far about I'll say living our best lives?
If I could leave anyone with anything, it's just hopefully the work you do and the conversation today and beyond just sparks that little bit of desire in someone to ask the question, what else? What else can I have? To your point earlier, the yes and life, we get to ask for that. And I want everyone to know they can have it right now. You don't have to put it off. You don't have to put it off. And it can be easier than you think and fun, right? We're making it fun.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Claire, this has been wonderful. It's been really valuable for us and our listeners. We've had a number of clients that unfortunately have sort of tipped over into that burnout phase, and they're put out, physically, emotionally, mentally, for, days or weeks. And it's like, it's not okay.
No.
I think we need to be proactive in these things. And I think this conversation is a fantastic one to get our people just thinking about these things, about being well, and it's not all about the grind at the end of the day.
Okay.
So
they get to
I
have
appreciate you so much for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me, and I'm wishing everyone well.
All right. Very good. Thanks, Claire.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Vital Strategies podcast. We wanted to give you the first look at the tools we're developing that will help you with the 4 cornerstones of wealth building. To be an insider to get access to the tools to help manage your cash flow, create a tax strategy, invest wisely, and protect the wealth you're building, go to vitalstrategies.com/cornerstones. You'll be first in line to get access. These tools are designed to help you pay less tax so you can build more wealth and live a great life. Again, the website is vitalstrategies.com/cornerstones. I want to remind you to rate and review the Vital Strategies podcast on your favorite platform. Your feedback helps us towards our goal of saving our clients and listeners over $1 billion in taxes. Those dollars are better used in your hands versus the government bureaucracy. Thank you for listening and for being a vital entrepreneur. You're vital because you're the backbone of our economy, creating opportunities for your employees and driving growth. You're vital to your family, fostering abundance not only financially, but in all areas of life that matter. Finally, you are vital to me because you strive to build wealth and make an impact through your business and live a great life.